Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. This is Aileen Crotty from the Film by Bike Film Festival, and we are going through and starting a series of interviews. So we wanted to talk to some notable bike culture folks from around the world, find out more about what they do in their communities and what gets them excited about bikes. And I thought it'd be really fun to kick off this series today with Meghan Sinnott. She is the cultural director for Film by Bike. That means that she helps us with all aspects of the festival, especially really giving it that creative spin, making sure we're staying in tune with it happening globally, and just having fun with every aspect of what we produce for Film by Bike. So I'd like to bring Meghan into the conversation today. Meghan, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Aileen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about how you first got involved with us at Film by Bike and what drew you to getting involved in Film by Bike.
Oh man, I think I first saw you all when you were at the No on Alberta, and I was kind of just followed somebody there. I had no idea what was going on, and back then I feel like you were maybe playing the movies with like VHSs. It was like kind of a cumbersome thing, and there were no seats. It was packed. I was at the back, but I loved the energy. Like I'm not gonna lie. The films weren't all that great, but like that was not the point. We were all there as a fundraiser for then it was a festival in the summertime, and man, it was just the people. It was a raucous party. It was good energy, and I just had to be a part of it the next year. So when I went the next year, there were I think raffleistas and I fell in love with that crew and became a raffleista. So I was helping with raffles and decided I would take that program over for a while, as I do. Um, what I liked about it is the raffleistas were a fun crew and are now good friends of mine, and mostly because I could wear a costume. And right now we're in my costume room.
I was hoping you would mention what was going on in the background there, not just
Well,
every
I mean,
ordinary closet.
yeah, that's the costumes there, and then a little creepy, but there's somebody looking over my shoulder. That's a painting my grandma did of me. Isn't that sweet?
Yes.
So, anyways, that's where we are.
So there's a nice view of Meghan's closet there, all filled with exciting outfits and regalia that she can bring to the table, whether she's
Yeah,
on stage or mingling with the audience.
yeah. There's definitely one or two that I wore to Film by Bike behind us. So
That's great.
that's great.
So you were talking about Raffleistas. Raffleistas, that's our raffle program where we raise funds for the festival with a really fun raffle. And the folks that go around selling the raffle tickets, we call those Raffleistas. And to me, seeing the way people showed up to do that job in our early days of the festival, they were just there to sell raffle tickets, but they came in costume. And it wasn't that we necessarily asked them to, it was just that people wanted to bring that fun and flair to the event. And to me, that was a real turning point when I realized that this was an event in some ways out of my control. It was the people's event. It was an event where people were going to bring their own fun and flair and make it what they wanted it to be. And I think that's when I really realized that Film by Bike served as a great community building event and endeavor, and that it wasn't about me and my ego. It was really meant to be something to entertain and delight people and give them a chance to interact and connect.
Yeah.
So what are you doing these days with Film by Bike? Tell us a little bit more about what your role with the festival is these days.
Oh man. It's not a huge role this year, and that's all right. I don't know what's going to happen for the actual festival. But leading up to it, I think I'm still on the marketing board. um, I haven't gotten the boot yet. And as a cultural advisor, I'm just here to say, hey, Aileen, you should consider posting about this one thing. Or, Aileen, have you heard about that other thing? Or, yes, that's a good idea to include that. And I'm very lucky because I get to still participate in the back in the jury. So I'm not officially on the jury. I haven't been for many years, only once official, but I get to show up and heckle.
So I know you have a really deep history with not only riding a bike, but really that cultural side of cycling. Tell me a little bit more about what your perception is of culture, what culture means to you within the landscape of riding a bike.
Oh man, that's there's a lot there. So much so that I actually way back when wrote my thesis about bicycle subcultures in Portland, Oregon. And at the time I had focused on 3 subcultures that I saw. I was trying to like edge around something I thought was a little political. And to be honest, I was trying to find a way to write my thesis about costumes.
Of course.
So I had studied sociology and anthropology. Oh, dang. Wait, hold on. Wine delivery.
Oh, man.
This is my partner, Chris. Get out of here. It's my interview. That's Chris. So I had written my thesis about bicycle subcultures and focused on Chunk 666, which was like a freak bike building club, and Zoo Bomb, which were people who gathered to ride little kid bikes down from the top of a really long hill at the zoo. That's where the zoo is in Portland. And then Axles of Evil, which at the time was a bike polo team. And so, you know, back in the early 2000s, I just started kind of consuming every single bike culture thing I could get my hands on. And as a proper anthropologist, you know, I really didn't know exactly what that meant. So I did everything from like stuffing envelopes at our local bike advocacy group to volunteering at Breakfast on the Bridges, where we were handing out donuts and coffee, to teaching kids how to ride bikes. I mean, I really didn't know what exactly I was looking for, but I knew biking to me wasn't just about donning like spandex and going out for the ride. There was something a lot more joyous and fun about it. And what it turns out that is what we in Portland call bike fun. So that's what I continue to seek. Bike fun has become many things, but you know, I'm not biking to get stronger. I'm not biking to race. I'm not biking to prove anything. I'm biking, one, because I actually think it's the most enjoyable way to get from point A to point B. But then also, I would rather be out biking with friends than I would be watching a movie at home alone.
Yeah, definitely. So I know being involved with Film by Bike has been a major aspect of what you've worked on over the years. Thank you. I appreciate that. You make our film festival way better with your presence and enthusiasm and creativity. But this is just one of the many things that you do. So tell us a little bit about some of the other projects that you coordinate in the bike realm, as well as some of the things that you do outside of the bike realm, because you have a lot of interests going on these days.
Thank you. In the bike world, I had been teaching bike safety for like officially. So it used to be that if it still is, but I don't teach it anymore. I just quit recently. But it used to be that if you get a ticket in Portland for doing something small, like improper lane changes or blowing through a stop sign or something, whether you're a driver of a vehicle, a car, or a bicycle or a skateboard or a pedestrian, it really didn't matter. As long as you were a road user of some sort, you get a ticket and you could decide whether you wanted to pay that ticket or instead take a class where you were taught by like a trauma nurse and a traffic cop, a judge, and me. And I represented the bike aspect of it. So that was actually a lot of fun.
And you did that for a while, right?
Maybe a decade.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And for more than a decade, I've been a part of a month-long bike festival of fun that's free to all and it's open source. So anybody can add their rides to the month, and it's called Pedalpalooza. And that's a lot of fun because it started out in about, I think, 2002. And back then there was 97 rides. And last year there was 340 some odd rides.
Wow.
And they are odd. It can be anything from like take your pet on a bike ride where people could put their cat in backpacks and their iguanas and their parrots and stuff. To a taco ride where you bike to bunches of different taquerias and shove tacos in your face and keep on going, to the larger rides like the World Naked Bike Ride is a well-known one in Portland. And last year that was 10,000 riders.
Wow.
So, but anybody can add their ride to the calendar. It's free and easy to do. And I've done a free box ride. I love doing mural rides where I take people around and show the best murals that I found, or the most hidden murals, or the newest murals that people might not have seen yet. Yeah, it's a great time. It's a whole month, so the bike rides could happen, at 6 a.m. or start at midnight. They're all throughout the day, and it's, I would say in Portland, typically what happens every year is Filmed by Bike kicks off spring for us. Like it's when you first see cyclists kind of crawling out from underneath their rocks and like dusting their bikes off and wiping their eyes and dusting their costumes and getting ready and getting out for the first time. It's kind of a homecoming. And then Pedalpalooza is the jam. That's when like we're out full force and you basically don't sleep for a month.
I love that. Pedalpalooza is here in Portland every summer, but for those of you who aren't in the area, even though you may not be able to attend the events here, I highly recommend checking out the Pedalpalooza calendar. Just Google it, it'll come up, and seeing the style of events that are happening. These are great ideas, some of which started in Portland, some of which Portlanders took from other areas. But if you're looking for fun ways to get your community on bikes or to ride with your friends in a different way, this is 300 and some ideas of goofy fun, creative, educational sometimes. Sometimes it's fitness-oriented, performance, long-distance rides, but really mostly it's just fun stuff. Really, really creative. I love that it's a way to take someone's personal interest that has nothing to do with bikes and to combine it with a bike ride. So the heritage tree rides or your idea of the mural ride, take something you're interested in and show people that by riding a bike, which just makes it even more fun. So I think it's a great formula for other cities to engage as well.
Yeah, and there have been times when I've wanted to include people in my bike rides who aren't cyclists, and so I'll either bike them in my cargo bike or have experts, on history tours especially, meet us at areas. So it's like, okay, so you just have to plan the ride and be really strategic so that you have the artist maybe painting the mural when you roll up. And that's been super fun. But so aside from Pedalpalooza and a few smaller bike rides like the Tweed ride I've helped with in the past and Midnight Mystery Ride and other rides, I'm trying desperately to hand the baton from me as lead wrangler of the World Naked Bike Ride to the new generation. And we'll see how that goes. But I've been a part of the World Naked Bike Ride here for many years. And then outside of the bike world, I produce The Moth, which is a storytelling podcast based out of New York City, and I'm the local producer. And I do some stage management stuff for vaudeville shows. Yeah. Also a chance for me to wear some costumes. And I am the executive director of an organization called Portland Made. So I get to bike around town and meet local makers, which is about the best thing in the world.
So what is it, would you say, if you had to summarize kind of what's got you inspired and excited these days for the type of work that you're doing within the bike realm and without, is there kind of a unifying theme that you feel stands out to you that is drawing you to the type of work that you're doing or that you're seeking out in the type of day job work you're doing or social hangout time projects that you're working on?
Um, I think finally uh, it's finally coming to light that people need community organizers, and that Pedalpalooza is not about me. It is 100% about the people, but they need somebody behind the scenes making it look flawless, making it look like it just will always happen. Um, Same with the World Naked Bike Ride. I mean, technically, anybody um, could coordinate their friends to kick off from any park, and that does happen throughout June. Is people have their own naked bike rides, but it's not the World Naked Bike Ride. Like, people need the elbow grease put in behind, and they need something to go to. So whether that's an Instagram page or a website or something, there needs to be a leader. And that's been really interesting because I feel like when I first was paying attention in the early 2000s in Portland, it seemed like everybody was a leader, because when you have things like Pedalpalooza and there's 97 bike rides on a calendar, it seems a little daunting. Like, maybe everybody's a leader and you're not. And it turned out that all of those people still needed somebody like the next level leader, some person behind the scenes who could lay space and make opportunities for those people to showcase who they are. And I feel the same is true with Portland Made. Although I'm the executive director and I do a lot of things, I wear a lot of different hats, from the marketing side to the, fundraising to the event planning, all of it, membership benefits and coordination and drives. When it comes down to it, I'm a community organizer. I'm there as an advocate for the people and really like listening to what it is they need and just simply creating space. And I'm so thankful early on for having studied anthropology and understanding like what space really is and how that morphs in different realms, different scenarios. And for having so early on done a lot of research on reimagining spaces, specifically like how to make use of our streets and how to make use of open spaces, public spaces, and free spaces. And that's kind of my jam. Like, I like finding ways to organize an event that is free or pretty affordable to put on, and just letting people bring who they are to that. So having maker meetups where people in Portland who are small business owners who make things can come together and meet their peers. It's the simplest thing, but I'm realizing now that not everybody can do that. So it's been pretty recent that I've like come into my own and been like, well, I'll be. This is something special that I can do for the people. It's just like, let them get together.
Yeah,
So.
I think that's great. And it is amazing where sometimes people do just need that leader, that person. The ideas are rumbling, the ideas are there, and then sometimes just a little someone to push that up a little more, and then boom, we have what we have today here in Portland, which is a really robust cycling culture with quite a diversity of events and styles, and a little something for everyone of
Yeah.
all ages, of all ride interests. It's really staggering, and I think it's interesting to see too that there are some events that are really bringing together a mix of people. To me, one of the most interesting examples is that there's a weekly ride, the Thursday night ride. It's a Thursday night. Not everyone's willing to go out on a Thursday night. You might think it's the 20-year-olds going out, but the vast majority of people I hear buzzing about that event are not in their 20s. They are far beyond their 20s. And they just have, there's an energy about that. And I think it's also the regularity. It is a thing, it's a ritual, it's something those folks look forward to, and that sense of community and getting out for a little ride on a Thursday night. But it is really interesting to see the way that event did not turn out the way I ever imagined it would. And it's been going on for quite a while now, too. And that's the other thing that I think surprised me about it. So I think it's really neat to take these cultural ideas and these events and happenings and see how they might shift and change over time, see who they might draw together. But for me, from a cultural perspective of cultural humanity, it's just so neat to see the way this using the bike as this tool to get people together can be a really interesting way to create social situations that may not exist otherwise and get people connecting who may not otherwise connect with each other.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, Portland is an exciting city that has been at the creative forefront for many years. Keep Portland weird is our motto in some respects. I like to think of this as a city where people are willing to try anything. It is a can-do town. People really put their all behind some crazy projects and just see if it works. And if it doesn't, they move on to the next thing. I love that about Portland. I think that's really at our core. But we're also growing and changing a lot. And I'm curious to hear from you. What are some of the things that you're loving about Portland these days? What's happening here in the Rose City that's got you fired up and looking forward to summertime?
Um, well, I was not going to mention COVID-19, but it is Saturday, March 28th, 2020, and it's all in our minds because we've all been locked inside because of it. So, what I'm really excited about is, and I'm seeing this in not just in the cycling world, but in the maker world, in the small business world, and elsewhere, is the kind of forced opportunity for all of us to shake shit up. I mean, this is, for better or for worse, we are all having to reimagine a little bit of everything. How do we get our groceries? How do we entertain ourselves? How do we teach our children? How do we get physical movement into our lives? All of these things, from small to large, have been completely turned upside down on their heads. And although the shakeup will be rough and there's going to be a lot of hardship, I personally am so much looking forward to the new things that will come of this and the joy. And so when people talk about Portland, keep Portland weird, I mean, they stole that from Austin. So whatever. So we got to really think creative this time. I think it's fascinating that when I moved here, which was in 2001, I didn't know it at the time, but I was part of a pretty significant wave of incoming people. And because I was young, I came here for university. I didn't have anything to compare it to or like catch. But now I see that Portland was changing significantly then. We were the first wave of people to really like shake Portland and what it was and what it would be. Shake and then shape, I guess. And we kind of felt growing pains again recently, like after we are suffering from our own success. And I think Portlanders were starting to get a little bitter, and we were, looking down on the new people. But what we have to remember is that people moved to Portland because they loved what they knew about it, and what they knew about it was honestly the most absurd. Like people were hearing about the World Naked Bike Ride and about our love of organic foods and of our dumpster diving and of all the things that we took for granted, to be quite honest. And now is the time that the people who moved here are going to be looking to both the old school crew and kids these days and finding like a mesh. I mean, we've got to move forward, and it's got to be in a creative, inspiring, interesting, unknown way. And yeah, I think I'm excited to. I think Portland is going to do it really well. I think that when I moved, I kind of chugged through a recession. I graduated in a recession, for heaven's sakes. I graduated in Portland when you could not get a barista job because you had to have had 4 to 6 years experience as a barista. And like 9 out of 10 baristas had like a college degree of some sort. Like my favorite one had a master's degree. So it was tough times then, and we're gonna go through that again. But that also meant that we had a lot of time on our hands. Sound familiar? And we all inspired each other and learned new things and made an incredible city. And I think that that's going to happen up and down the coasts of the United States and hopefully around the world.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we're really fortunate to have had what we've had here in Portland, and it can only get better. And I'm so excited to see what that better is because we've already done so many interesting things, especially as a bike culture. So for people who are tuning in who are from other places, maybe they're in an area that just has a just beginning bike culture, or they're just getting excited about cycling. What are some things that you would tell them to inspire them that you can draw upon from what we've done here in Portland and what you've seen in other cities and what's got you excited about cycling? What are some words of wisdom that you would pass on to folks in other areas of the world?
That you don't have to have special clothing or even a special bicycle to bike, and you to be a part of a culture, a community of cyclists. You don't have to buy into whatever is chic, what's cool then and there. It's not maybe something that can translate well, but when I came into Portland, everybody had a freak bike, and I didn't have a freak bike. But when I used to go zoo bombing, when I was writing my thesis about zoo bomb, I was scared to death to ride a little kid's bike because they were unfamiliar to me and they only had disc brakes, and there's all these things. I was like, I can't see well at night. So I was afraid I couldn't like affix my bike lights to them, and I just wasn't into it. So I rode my normal bike. I rode my bike from the thrift store on this very special bike ride, which was specifically adults riding kids' bikes down a hill. And then there was me riding just a normal, boring bike, and it didn't matter. I didn't have to go get a special bike to participate and be a part of the fun and to join a community. So one, that you don't need a special bike. It doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be flashy. You can mountain bike with a hardtail bike. You don't need all the shocks and all the bells and whistles. You don't need to be able to push a button and have your seat go up and down. It's not how I rode mountain bikes the first time. And then that, cycling isn't for any age group. You can be 9 years old and have a crew. You can be 90 years old and have a crew. You might just be going at a different pace. And you also, it's not about lack of money or a lot of money, because you see there's a split, right? Like in the United States, often when we think of people who ride bikes, we think of the less fortunate of, the society, or maybe it's, that person's probably riding a bike because they lost their license or they can't afford a car or whatever. And that's bullshit. And similarly in more affable, how do you say this? In countries that, circumstances are different. And sometimes you'll see that it is the most affluent people who are riding bikes. And maybe it's because that they can afford a bike, or they have time, the leisure, the ability to get out and ride on the weekends or during the weekdays or whatever. And I call bullshit to that as well. That, anybody can ride a bike. It is actually, I personally think, one of the most intelligent forms of transportation, and the most translatable, transferable, and equitable. form of transportation. So it's 2 wheels, and it's up to you to figure out how that works for you. So actually, blow that out. You can ride a trike for all I care.
Oh, yeah, come as you are. So, folks, today we've been speaking with Meghan Sinnott. She is the cultural advisor of Film by Bike and also deep in the bike culture of Portland, the organizer of the World Naked Ride, as well as many of the other events that we talked with her about today. And today she is conducting this interview with us from her costume room. Meghan is well known for bringing fun and flair to the bike community. So before we sign out today, I just wanted you to give us a quick tour of some of your favorite outfits that are, I know, I didn't tell you I was going to do this. Some of your favorite get-ups that are hanging out behind there. Showcase us a couple of the dresses, the hats. What do you got there? Show us some of the flair.
Man, well, for Halloween, I was safety mom. So I just happened to have a dress that goes really well with a safety vest.
Gorgeous.
So there's that. It doesn't look like much. In fact, it isn't much. It's a little tiny. That way back when I screen printed car free, because I was car free and proud, and I still am. My friend Lisa made this for me because I saw it on Etsy and it was made in like Lithuania or something. And I was like, man, I don't need to pay for shipping all the way from Lithuania. We'll just make it. So I wore that on my wedding night. And my mom got this when she was in her early 20s in Austria. And I'll find one more for you. I'll try to find a Film by Bike outfit. Do 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 do. Here we go. This one's for when I get sassy. And it's my little jumpsuit. So you can't tell, but up there's a bunch of different hats and wigs, and well, I'll show you. Behind me, that's where the wigs are. That's where we share a wig, Aileen. It's in there, and that's where my gloves are, like my fancy long ones that I have from my great grandmother, and fancy handkerchiefs, etc. See that horse head? That's pretty good. Anyways. There's a lot.
Awesome. Meghan, thanks so much for the tour of your costume closet. And it's been so fun talking to you today about bike culture, Portland's bike culture, and ideas for our global bike community. We are conducting this series of interviews with notable people across the globe who are doing cool things related to cycling. So it was great to kick off this series with you. I look forward to checking back in with you periodically over time. And I wish you the best of luck in this COVID time. And thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks. Bye, Aileen. Bye, everybody.